Andy, you've talked a lot about, off-season prep for Big 12 teams and things like that. I wonder how much changes by one game, right? You've seen them play Pitt now, and do you have to, or do you choose to deviate from what you learned over the summer about West Virginia and all that?
Well, it's a unique game plan because, you got to remember for us, it was 2 games ago that we had just played them. And, it was 3 games ago for them. So there's some, okay, what'd you do, what they do, right? Okay, what they do in their bowl game, what they do in the first game, what did we do? And there's some, a little bit of evaluation of things that you confirmed and things that you saw last year, game planning, and, things in your self-scout that you go through in the summer. So it's a little unique, but it's, nothing that you don't prepare for, right, in the sense of what you do, because you're going to, I've mentioned here before about everything, about how you have to evolve, and you have to evolve as a team. And every game you play, you're evolving. You're learning about your players, you're learning about your opponent, you're learning about your current players' strengths and weaknesses, and how they compare to your upcoming opponent. So you're always, going into a week of preparation, really thoroughly evaluating what you feel like you need to do to try to win a football game.
What'd you like most about your offense week 1, and what do you want to see most in week 2?
I think when you look into, really college football in general, when you play first game, there's always first game mistakes that occur. And a lot of them come in the form of delay of games and sloppy procedure penalties and, not too many guys or not enough guys in the field. And, so for us in the first game to be pretty clean, is a testament to our kids and the other position coaches and how they went about preparing themselves to do those sort of things, which is what the expectation should be, right? We should be able to expect to get that stuff done the right way. There's always significant improvement typically from week 1 to week 2 if you allow yourself to really focus on, what you needed to improve on from week 1, because there's a lot of, at least in my experience through years of coaching, there's a lot of things that happen in the game where sometimes you go and you say, see, we talked about this and then it came up. Or, hey, you understand now what I mean when we talk this way, or why we have to get lined up like this. And there wasn't a ton of that in our first game, so I'm happy and pleased with how that looked. But now we're going into a different environment, we're on the road, and so we have to make sure that's another challenge, another distraction. We have to be able to center our focus on what we do in our huddle and how we communicate what we do.
Lance talked yesterday about how he felt that even though there's 2 games difference between last season and now, but the West Virginia team you guys are going to play looks a lot different. I guess, would you agree with that? And what differences, I guess, do you see from them?
Yep, I think so. When you, defensively, there are some newer faces that are on there, okay, but when you watch them play, there's still some Big 12 talent, right, in that group. And then you look at, and I hope that they would say the same thing about a lot of our guys, is that when you look at the players that you played a year ago, those players that you're playing again, they look a year older. The things that come with being a year older, the physical maturation, the understanding the game, the getting lined up, all that kind of stuff. So, it was 3 games ago, but how many months, right? 8, 9, 10, whatever it is. I can't do my math very well, but there's growth, I think, in both teams.
And for you in the run game in particular, I guess, how would you assess the way the offensive line run blocked on Friday?
Pretty good. I don't even know what the stats were, honestly, but it was good. I think our yards per rush were pretty solid. Of course, you rip off a big one, that's going to skew the numbers a little bit, but it was good. We had hats on hats, and give our running backs a chance to have some green grass and make some people miss, which, that there was evidence of that occurring on last Friday night. So I'm pleased, but, I'm sure Coach has said, and I'll say 1,000 times, it's another opponent right now that we're going to play. So I'm excited about the test that we're about to take.
Going into a road game like this, you've talked a lot about wanting to be balanced and kind of take what the defense gives, but how important is it to be able to run the ball in a place like this when you got the crowd and everything like that?
Any game that you play, I think that's critically important, right? Yeah, I don't think it, I shouldn't say that. I'm sure some people really maybe philosophically are like, we're okay with trying to throw the ball 100% of the time, but there's still a really physical element to football. And we want to embrace that. We want to thrive in that environment. That's who we want to be. And so, in order for anyone's success, I think you need to be able to establish a run game, at least efficiently. And so for us last week to be able to have some explosive plays and to do that, it's a good first step in our journey here this year.
In your offense, given where this program still is, are you approaching things of, hey, let's control the clock, let's short the game, let's ground and pound it out and play that to our advantage, or have you moved past that?
Well, I don't know if I'd ever say that you move past that, because I think how an offense controls a game, time management is maybe one metric that somebody would use to do that, right?
Sure.
Staying on the field, keeping your defense off the field. At the end of the day, and I've talked about this before, our evolution needs to be on offense to make sure that we're finishing those drives, however they look, right? And that we need to, the most important metric in football that people measure is your points per possession, right? And when you're on the field, you need to finish with points. And that's what we want to do. If it takes 20 plays to go do that, fantastic. If it takes one, great, right? But we want to be able to end those things with touchdowns. And so every opponent that you play, there's a recipe to win the game, right? Right? And sometimes that recipe might be, let's try to control it, but let's try to stay in the field, and how does that look, right? Sometimes that might be, hey, you'll be able to stay in the field for X number of plays, but you're going to have a big play potential to follow that up, right? So whatever that is for an opponent that you would face every week, it might be a little bit different. But generally speaking, you want to make sure that you're finishing the drives with points. You really do.
Sure. And maybe a little Captain Obvious question, but the idea of having so many backs when you're trying to control clock and do what you just talked about, how much does that help, having many guys you can plug in there?
Well, fantastic, because in theory, right, everyone should be stay pretty fresh.
Yeah.
You could go on one of these long drives, and we've been on 20-play drives before, right? You know what I mean? And how many of those end up being run? Let's say a dozen of them or whatever. If all of a sudden fresh legs come in every 3 carries, that's pretty.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. That can be tough on the defense, right? It can be real tough. So.
Kai Thomas won bowl game MVP for Minnesota against West Virginia last year. Is that something where you pick his brain at all about what worked, or is that just too different of a situation?
Yeah, a little bit. You have those discussions a little bit, but I think, you're going back into, learning a new offense and all these sort of things. And so, I think he's played enough football. He's smart enough to, recognize maybe the differences and what that game was, at least in the offense that he had been into now. But, matter of fact, I just said, hey, I was watching film again, and every time I was like, hey, that's you, and so kind of he chuckles, I remember that play, and so, talking about that, maybe a little bit to what the point was made before about, there are some new faces, on that side of the ball defensively, and they evolved too, right, since whenever that game was played, how many months ago. There's been evolution for sure in their personnel, just like ours.
I want to get your opinion